All right. So here we are, everybody. The day has finally come. We have Sam Hahn in the house, CEO of L.A.B Golf. And Sam, I am so excited to have you on here. We just met last week for the first time at the PGA show, and I was so excited to meet with you and have you kind of show me a little bit about the technology behind the putters that you guys have, because it just blew my mind. And it was one of these really cool things where it's not just about the putter that you're making and that you're selling, but the technology behind it and the why behind it. And you really introduced me into a lot of myths that the industry has in terms of what's right and what's not, and what's science versus marketing. And I definitely want to touch upon all of that today. But before we do, for those that don't know who you are, can you give us a little 101? Who is Sam Hahn and how did you get to where you are?
Sure. My name, as aforementioned, is Sam Hahn. I am the CEO at L.A.B Golf. I have been in that position for a little over 2 years now. I had, up until that, almost no experience in the golf business at all. I had spent most of my 20s in the music business, which left me plenty of time to golf during the day. So actually, there was a post about it earlier that I made a comment on. I was a 18 handicap when I was 20 years old, and I was a scratch player about 3 years later. So I just went, full psycho on it and really got into the game, and was a pretty strong ball striker. Always a pretty strong ball striker, and an incredibly streaky putter. I wouldn't put myself in the bad putter category, because I definitely have moments where I could really fill it up. But very inconsistent, and the more I played, the more inconsistent I got. And then it was about, I guess almost 3 years ago now, a fellow who teaches at the club that I play at, Emerald Valley in Eugene, Oregon. He had the putter. I was using an 8802 at the time. He showed it to me. I thought, just like a lot of people think, that it looked like a ridiculous infomercial product. And he just told me to give it a try. I one putted the first 7 greens and didn't even finish the 9, and walked right back to the clubhouse and bought one. So I was a customer for, I don't know exactly what it was, 6 or 8 months or something like that. And then the head fell off my putter. So I had to send it back. And that's when I got in touch with Bill Pressey, who's the guy who invented the putter. He and I hit it off, and, had a nice Facebook relationship. And then the company at the time wasn't doing so good. And they were having trouble getting the word out. The marketing wasn't quite there. The production wasn't quite there. Just the infrastructure of the whole thing. And so I ended up with an opportunity to become a part of the company, and I did it. Turned our whole world here at home, completely upside down. Just massive career shift and all that. And I'm loving it.
That's pretty amazing to go out and first time using it, one putt the first 7 greens. I mean, you can get into the Baseball Hall of Fame for batting 300, and you went 100 on the
Right.
7 out of the 7 greens that you
played. And they weren't short putts either. Like I made a couple putts outside of 30 feet. I mean, none of them were close. None of them were tap-ins. They were all, between 5 and 40 feet. And I mean, it was nuts. And they didn't just go in, like they went in the middle, in the awesome. Dead center middle of the hole. And it was a profound experience.
That's pretty awesome. Now, because you brought that up, the middle, let's start there, at least in terms of the golf putting myths. Because one of the things that you had mentioned when we got together last week that blew my mind is how there's a lot of marketing out there saying that mis-centered putts will cause misdirection. And yet you showed me right there using a device that we'll get into it for a second here, where you're basically not holding the putter's just swinging itself. But whether you hit the toe, whether you hit the heel, whether you hit the sweet spot, they all went to the same place. What's that all about?
So yeah, we've all heard MOI, and a few of the major OEMs have definitely used that term to market their product. Typically, you hear MOI associated with mallet putters, big mallet putters. They're explaining that, you know, the bigger they are, the higher the MOI, and therefore the less directional deflection and the less loss of speed you're going to get on an off-center hit. So like you said, I showed you this demonstration with the revealer. So it was something that Bill just noticed when he started putting with the revealer, that crap, I just hit this thing off the toe and I can't control the torque or the head at all, yet this thing's still going dead straight. It's not, you know, going way right and coming up way short. It's going dead straight. So what's challenging is that I can't test another putter in the revealer because they don't stay still enough to actually make decent contact with the ball. What I will say is that I firmly believe that the way that they test MOI is hugely flawed. So MOI is typically tested with the putter in the same way that, or hold on, I'll grab a putter here. So here's a face balance putter. They typically test it by how quickly it recovers in this position here. Well, I don't putt like this. I don't know anybody that putts with the putter face going towards the sky. We putt like this, yet they don't test MOI in this position. Mm-hmm. So what we don't know is, you know, regarding, there's two separate supposed benefits to MOI. One of them is the directional deflection. So the guys at Quintic, which for those of you that don't know is a, you know, super high-end putter testing platform, they believe wholeheartedly that if you catch a putt off the toe, that ball is going to the right, whether or not the face was square at impact. I don't think that that's true. I think that when the ball goes to the right after having struck it on the toe, I think you hit it on the toe because you missed the putt right, not the other way around. I think that if, you know, unless you're hitting a 90-foot putt where you're actually compressing the ball, that's when you're going to start to see things similar to what you see with a driver or an iron when you hit it off the toe, where the ball will deflect, you know, in the direction to where the head torques, because the ball's got that extra moment where it's actually on the face. With a putter, the ball's long gone before that putter twists, man. I mean, I don't think that that's a thing. But like I said, I can't test it in the revealer. I can't prove that. So it's possible that it's just our putter. It's possible that just balancing a putter perfectly eliminates the directional dispersion. What's interesting too is, like, every once in a while, somebody will head out to the Kingdom, the TaylorMade Kingdom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, they have one of our putters there, and somebody, you know, invariably will bring up our technology when he's talking about MOI, and he pulls our putter out and he lays it on a table and he taps the toe and he watches the putter spin and not recover. And he says, well, it has no MOI. You know, this putter has 0 MOI whatsoever. And testing it the way they do, I get why he says that, but you saw what you saw, man. I mean, I can hit a putt without holding on to the putter and hit it a millimeter away from the edge of the toe, and the ball goes dead straight. So either we've broken the scale on MOI, or the way that a lot of the other companies are pitching it is just not right.
Sure. And just for those watching, to clarify, it's not that the putter didn't twist. It totally twisted. It twisted all over the place because of where you hit it, but the ball didn't move. It was dead straight. And I think you had showed me 3 putts, and they were probably all, what would you say, 30, 35 feet. One off the center, lipped out. The one off the heel, I mean, you just pulled it, or not pulled it, but aimed just a hair left. It would have gone in. And then the one way off the toe, you sunk.
Right.
And so I think what people might be wondering is, what is this reveal you're talking about, and how does that play into your testing and the whole idea that how is it the putter can stay straight? Because that leads us into the next thing of, like, toe hang, face balance, like,
sure.
yeah.
Let me go grab a revealer. I'll show you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So for any of you watching right now live, we are going to be doing a Q&A here at the end. If any of you watching have any questions, just go into the comments section, type them below. We'll get to them. And for those of you that are catching this on the replay that couldn't be here, we have some questions for you as well. So Sam, you grabbed a revealer. What is a revealer? What are we revealing?
Let me get back far enough so you can see the whole thing. So this is the revealer. An interesting point of fact, the revealer came before the putter. The revealer is what gave birth to the putter. So what we have here can see up close, this is a tiny little swivel right here. And what we do is we put a hook in the top of a putter just in the vent hole there. And that hooks into our little swivel, which is, you know, can totally move. And then the bottom of the putter rests in this little notch right here. So I want to be really clear. This is not perfect. The revealer is not, you know, you know, especially if you talk to a lot of the biomechanics guys and stuff like that, this is not a pure test as to how you putt. The fact that the putter is suspended in this notch here down close to the head definitely makes this not an absolutely pure test. That said, it sure shows us a lot about what putters are doing and certainly what our putter does. So I guess I'll try and turn the camera here and see if I can put it on my little putting mat. All right. Okay. Forgive my very messy house. Yeah, so I think you'll be able to see from there.
Yeah, that's great.
So first thing I'll show you is a face balance putter here. And this was a putter I used to go back to all the time. One of my faves, a Rossi 2. And you can see the putter's, you know, free to spin, and I can't manipulate it here at all. And then when I get it into a playing position, can you see the putter head from where you're at?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so when I take this thing back, watch what's going on. It's trying to open up really, really quickly. That's a face balance putter. No matter what type of face balance, whether it's a center shafted face balance, heel shafted, whatever it is, a face balance putter in a playing position is always trying to open. And then interestingly enough, it's trying to open. So say I was able to hold it square in the back here with my thumb. As soon as I start down, it's trying to open again. So it's trying to open on the way back, and it's trying to open even more on the way through. Toe hang putter here, another one of my old faves, a Rife putter here. So this is a full toe hang putter. And in our revealer device here, I'm just realizing now that I'm wearing tights on live TV. So there's your full toe hang putter, free to do it at once. And toe hang is going to do exactly the opposite. So, and toe hangs, we can talk about it a little more. Toe hangs quite a bit, in my mind, a lot more interesting than face balance. And it also, putting toe hang putters in this revealer helped explain to me why predominantly most of the truly exceptional putters you see out in the world are using toe hang putters. So a toe hang putter with any amount of acceleration is trying to close on the way back. This one being full toe hang, I might not be able to do this as well, but like an answer style, there is a sweet spot and a tempo where you can take it back just at the right pace. Yeah, it's not going to work with this one, where it'll actually stay square for a good portion of the backstroke. But it's trying to close on the way back, and then a toe hang putter on the way through is trying to open. So toe hang closes on the way back and opens on the way through. And so where you and I got to talking, you know, we were talking about, you know, this narrative about a face balance putter being better for a straight back, straight through stroke, and a toe hang putter being better for a stroke that gates. And a lot of the toe hang putters are promoted as having toe flow. We've certainly heard Tiger talk about toe flow all the time. So as what we just saw in the revealer, that toe ain't flowing. It's doing the exact opposite of what, you know, many of us, myself included, assumed that a toe hang putter was trying to do. We assumed it was trying to swing open and then swing close on the way through, so that all you have to do is be nice and light, let your putter be on a natural arc, and it'll close. I guess before we get to toe hang, let me talk about face balance for a minute. So number
real
one,
quick, just for those who might not know, let's define face balance first, toe hang, just so we have some context. In the traditional sense of how the industry is marketing.
So a toe hang putter means that if you're laying it with the shaft just laying on a table like this, the toe hangs down. So this one's almost a full toe hang. A bullseye or an 8802 you're going to see is true full toe hang. An answer style putter is going to end up somewhere around there. And then a lot of these like spider flow necks you're seeing are going to end up somewhere around there. But anything past flat here going this way is a toe hang putter.
Awesome.
This one is a face balance putter. This is where you know, typically you see these with the funny bent neck here. This one, when you lay it in that same position, the face is going directly towards the sky. So the reason I call out face balance The fact that it points towards the sky is totally arbitrary, but there's some very smart marketing folks out there that recognize that as humans, we definitely know what up is and we definitely know what down is. And this one goes straight up. So it looks like something. It looks like it's balanced intentionally in some particular way. And then somebody created a narrative that balancing a putter like that is going to be better for a particular kind of stroke. Number one, I hope everybody who's watching this knows or can agree there is absolutely no such thing as a putting stroke that goes straight back and straight through. It cannot happen. Some of the Pels guys get pretty close, but even still, there is a slight arc to their stroke. And unless you're really, really working the face closed, boy, is it difficult to actually keep the face looking at the target for the entirety of the stroke. And why would you want to? That's a lot of rotation in your forearms and a lot of rotation in your hands and a lot of variables to deal with. So to the best of my understanding, what I think about toe flow is, so if all of a sudden I couldn't use a lie angle balance putter anymore, like ours, I would use a toe hang putter. And the reason I would is because you're getting the same amount of resistance in the same directions in both parts of the stroke, the backstroke and the through stroke. So a lot of the great putters, you hear them talk about a release. You hear them talk about swinging the toe closed and releasing the putter through impact. So we know that the putter doesn't flow. The toe doesn't flow open and then flow closed. We know now that it does, in fact, the exact opposite. So what I think a lot of the great putters are describing as toe flow is actually toe resistance. So somebody who is screwing the face open in access of the putting arc is going to feel resistance on a toe hang putter. So that resistance kind of tells them where the putter is. And then the same thing when they change directions, now it's trying to open. So as they're trying to close it, again, they feel resistance. So they feel resistance in both directions, and it shows them, you know, kind of where the putter is, and they can, you know, accommodate that torque because they're aware of it in both parts of the stroke. The reason I really don't like face balance anymore is because, okay, a face balance putter is trying to open. So if you're going kind of a Pels method where you're trying to hold it shut, you're going to feel the same resistance you would feel in a toe hang that you're trying to open. But then on the way through, it's also trying to open. So now all of a sudden the resistance disappears. And so you had this nice resistance on the way back telling you where the putter is, and then you swing it through and the putter's trying to open and you're trying to open it all at the same time, and the whole thing just kind of disappears on you. And, you know, this is just guessing and kind of what I've seen. Guys that, you know, putt okay with mallets, I think they're doing so maybe because they're a little bit easier to line up. Gives them that much more confidence. They are torquing from a poundage of torque standpoint, they torque more. So maybe the more torque is just making them that much more aware of where the face is. But like I said, you know, Luke Donald and Brant Snedeker are the only two guys I can think of that have ever putted exceptionally well with face balance putters. Luke Donald is, in my mind, a bit of an anomaly. Brant Snedeker, I get how it happens. I mean, he grips it so tight with that strong left-hand grip, and the stroke is so short that I think he mitigates most of the torque involved. And he obviously just likes lining that thing up and, you know, makes ridiculous amounts of putts with it. Yeah, that's sort of what I've discovered, you know, and again, I could talk for hours and hours and hours about all the little nuances between toe hang and face balance and how best to accommodate, you know, both of those types of putters throughout a putting stroke. But at the end of that conversation, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, there's a million ways to control torque and a million putters that will help you control torque the way you want to control torque. But why the hell would you want to?
Sure. So on that point, let's flip the script then into a term that you used that I really liked, which was the hangover period. And what about players like Sergio Garcia, who are notoriously always changing their putters? I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to. They just struggle to find the putter that's right for them. So if you could talk a little bit about why that is and what the hangover period is.
So the hangover period is a little different than why people struggle and why the Sergios of the world can't seem to find something that works for them. So I was Sergio. I was exactly that dude. I had 50 putters in my basement before my first directed force, and it had gotten to a point where I was switching on purpose just to get a new honeymoon period, just to, you know, be excited about a new putter and be in discovery mode and all that. So every putter torques besides ours. They all have some element of torque to them, and managing that torque is really hard to do so at a consistent level. One day you got a putter and it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. It feels great. It doesn't feel like you're manipulating the putter at all. It arrives back at square the way you want it to. And that's because that day you have a perfect relationship with how that putter torques. The next day, let's say you're gripping it, you know, 2% harder, or your rate of acceleration on the backstroke is, you know, 5% faster or slower. You have now completely changed your relationship with how that putter torques. So unless you're really, really good at calibrating your grip pressure, the rhythm of your stroke, your posture, your ball position, all of these things, you're always going to have to sort of readapt every day. Because every day we're different. I know you're big into, you know, health and body and stuff like that. Every day we're different. You know, you ate something a little different the day before, your fingers feel a little different. Playing at high altitude, your fingers feel a little different. All these things change your relationship with torque. The greatest putters in the world have found a way to manage and calibrate how they manage torque every day. Somebody like Sergio keeps chasing putters because, for the same reason I did, because one day that putter worked and the next day it didn't. So it's got to be the putter, because I know I didn't change when in fact you did. And getting back on track is tricky. So the hangover period that I talk about is something that a lot of our customers have experienced at all levels, from, you know, intermediate golfers all the way up to the professional level. Here's what happens. It goes this way almost every time. They see my revealer demonstration with our putter in there, and they see the putter staying completely square by itself, and it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then they see the off-center hits demonstration. And they say, wow, that's really cool. So now you got a putter that stays square by itself and doesn't matter where you hit it on the face. So this seems like a pretty good idea. Then they roll a few, and the cocktail that Bill, the inventor, created between the press grip, the shaft lean, the onset head, the weight, everything, for almost everybody that tries it, produces an insanely tight roll. So they roll a few and the ball's just end over end and looks like it's just kind of floating across the green, and you're really, really stoked. So now you're in the honeymoon phase. And then you go out, you make a few putts, you're stoked, and then you end up on a 3-foot putt and you don't even touch the hole. And with our putter I'm talking about. And you freak out and you hit the putt again and you don't even touch the hole again. And now sets in the hangover. And the hangover is that most of us don't aim our conventional putters particularly well, and all of us have our bag of tricks as to how to force a 3-foot putt into the hole or a 6-foot putt into the hole. That bag of tricks is based on torque and based on managing and mitigating the torque in your putters, and does not work with our putter. So now you're sitting there and it just feels vague and strange, and you don't know how to get over it, because all the little things that you used to do to correct your pull or correct your push from short range doesn't work with our putter anymore. And now you're fully in the hangover and you lose your mind, because you're like, oh my God, I have a putter that stays square by itself. I'm pretty sure I'm pointing it where I think I'm pointing it. It doesn't matter where I hit it on the face. Why can't I putt it into a swimming pool from 2 feet? And just like any hangover, you got to be patient and you got to nurse your way through it. And, when we get customers calling and saying, dude, it was the greatest putter on the planet for a week and now I can't do anything good with it. The starting place is to remember that everything you've ever done with any other putter has been in an effort to keep the face square. With our putter, all you're trying to do is let it stay square. And that's a different mentality. That's a different, way of thinking about approaching your putting stroke. I encourage people to do a lot of one-handed putting, to learn to just kind of let the putter do its thing. I encourage people to do a lot of putting like this with their thumbs off the putter. And that'll start to build in some trust that the putter's staying square by itself. The other part of the hangover is speed. Particularly from mid and short range, we see a lot of people that really struggle with speed, particularly like blowing the putts way by. The reason for that is that the ball rolls better. So it effectively, it's on the ground quicker and it holds its line better. So you see a lot of people missing a 5-foot putt, 4 feet long and high. And the fix is quite simple. Just aim it right at the hole instead of aiming outside the hole, which for me was what ultimately took me from a 2 down to a +3 in about 8 weeks. All these, I play on POA and it's pretty bumpy. And, if you have the, the balls to do it, taking the break out of a 7-foot putt and just slamming it in the back of the hole is the way to make putts on POA if you're confident. And I started doing that, and I was able to just jam these things in, and all these putts that I used to sit there and hem and haw, or is this, right center or right edge and all this stuff, is like, I don't care. I'm just going to hit it at the hole really hard. It goes in. The other speed issue that's interesting as it relates to our putter specifically is that from long range, we have exactly the opposite. We have people that struggle to get the ball to the hole. And the reason for that is you're looking down at this putter that's, the size of Montana, and you're thinking that, it's just going to be a hammer and crush it. And then you take it back and all of a sudden it feels really light. And you kind of don't know where the putter is, and it kind of disappears on you, and, you lose control of your speed. So this most commonly happens because most people don't take a longer stroke from 40 feet than they do from 20. The difference is how hard they grip the putter and how much they accelerate the putter. The brain registers torque as weight. So when you got a big honking spider that's twisting all over the place, it feels heavier than it actually is and gives you some awareness of where the putter is and how hard it's going to hit the ball. With our putter, you need to make the extra effort to grip it really light and to use the length of your stroke and gravity to control your speed rather than the amount that you accelerate. So again, a lot of one-handed putting from 40 feet, just kind of letting the head swing and do its thing. And then across the board, you find people are like, oh my God, my speed has never been better. And that's how it was for me. I mean, I started making 35-foot putts with some regularity, and that changes around, when you're on the 7th hole after having gone bogey, and you got a 35-foot par putt because you bladed one out of a bunker and it goes in, it's a real good chance that next ball is hitting the fairway. That's the shtick on the hangover and the honeymoon and all that.
Awesome. I love that. And just listening to you re-explain that, it really, through my own experience of going through that, if you remember, like when we first took a couple of putts, I think it was something like I was aiming way left and wasn't even aware that I was aiming way left. And to your point, I'm thinking like, well, that's how I always aim. It looks square, like my eyes are just not calibrated. And to your point, I figured out how I need to manipulate the ball to get it into the hole. But then
what kind of putter do you use?
So right now I use a Scotty Del Mar, so Phil Mickelson style, big toe hang mini mallet, and but by the end of that session, which was only 10 minutes long or so, we recalibrated the eye, we got the alignment, and now it's like, okay, everything's going in, and it's a really cool thing. And I love, to your point, of the lighter that I was gripping it, I didn't have to do anything in a sense. It was just, okay, let me just turn. Okay, there. Okay, got it. And right. It makes it more simple, but I can totally see what you're saying of if you're not used to that, you're not feeling these forces. It's just one of those, it's almost a mental thing of let's just let it flow. Now We're really talking about putter flow of, okay, let's just do it. Let's visualize in our mind and let it happen. So what I want to do now is we have a couple of people on, but I do want to go into some questions. But while we're giving people an opportunity to do that, we saw in the revealer the toe hang and the face balance, but I don't think
you want to see that? Yeah, let's see that putter.
Absolutely.
All right. I think got a pretty good view there.
Then anybody watching, if you have any questions to throw in, just drop them in the comments section. Otherwise, we have a couple that were sent in that we'll get to.
So yeah, here's the revealer. I think you guys can see it. Here is no Shit. Give me a second. My hook fell out.
Yep, you got it.
Okay. Nope. Can't sell that one anymore. So yeah, here's our putter in the revealer. Free to spin on its own and do its thing. And can you see the putter head from back there?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so there you go. It just doesn't move. You know, I'm not controlling this thing at all. And as soon as I get it into a playing position, it just stays right there. I'm not sure how well you guys are going to be able to see the ball roll here, but you know, again, without being able to control it, kind of send one, try and get it right off the middle of the face here. That one was dead center. And then I only got another ball, so I do right off the toe. You know, and this is that one that everybody's expecting to go way out to the right. And I hearted it. So yeah, so that's our putter there. It just stays square by itself. So it takes a, you know, pretty significant variable. The name of the game all of a sudden becomes more about the shaft. So,
Sure.
keeping the shaft on plane and suspending it, you know, on the inclined lie angle that it's built at.
And you had mentioned you guys have a pretty simple fitting process for getting that figured out.
We have two very cool processes,
Sure.
and I was actually having a fun conversation about this last night. So we have a remote fitting process. We're not in every pro shop in the country, and so a lot of our customers see our videos, and it's pretty compelling stuff. And so they want to buy a putter. There's nobody near them to get fit, and Bill came up with a brilliant way to fit the lie angle, which is the really essential piece of our technology. And it's really simple. You're taking a 6-second cell phone video and sending it to us. You got to stand in this particular way, kind of up against the door jamb or something that's 90 degrees to the ground. But it still makes people really nervous to do that remote fitting because they're like, really, I'm about to buy, you know, anywhere from a $450 to $700 putter, depending upon all the custom options. And you're going to fit this thing perfect from a cell phone video. And in fact, I am at this point almost of the impression that depending on the player, I think it might actually be more accurate. The other way to fit is what we did with you. We went through the fitting process, didn't we?
We did, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so totally adjustable putter. The length and lie can be completely adjusted. And the name of the game with that one is just getting comfortable. You know, how do you want to stand? If you could stand anyway, throw all your fundamentals and all your coaching out the window, how do you want to stand? Then we lock the thing down and we measure it and do it. The flaw in that scenario is that you get people that start to chase. So it depends upon the type of personality that we're at. And I had this conversation with my bestie Matt Schuth, really great player, and he's one of those guys that does the less he knows about what he's using, the better. And as soon as you start giving him information, wheels start turning and he just goes down the rabbit hole. And so, you know, but I mean, both fitting processes are phenomenal. As long as you approach the live fittings, you know, with like, let's not try and reinvent the wheel here. Let's just, you know, go stand comfortable. Then they both work extremely well. And the fitting putter itself is genius and works great. It's a sort of an upgraded version of what Slosinger used to do back in the day. And a lot of fitters out there know all about that putter. It was a game changer for putter fitting. Yeah.
Well, awesome. So while we're waiting for any live questions to come in, we'll jump into ones that were sent in ahead of time for people who can't make it. This one coming from Jerry, who wants to know about offset. And is offset something that needs to be considered? Is it a personal preference? Does it affect a putter? Why do you guys have it or don't have it? And yeah, let's go from there. Offset.
So I'll first answer that question as though I have nothing to do with lab golf, because our technology has a very different answer to that question. If I was just a regular putter guy, 100% offset absolutely has an impact on your putter. If you're looking at a putter that isn't one of ours, that is not a lie angle balanced putter, it's going to have an impact. I would strongly recommend getting with some of the guys from Edel, EDEL. Dave Adele is top 5 smartest minds in all of golf. He has done extensive research on aim. And one of the things that he discovered beyond some of the obvious stuff, like where you put the lines, whether you need lines at all, whether you should have a dot and a combination of lines, he also tested very extensively how deeply offset or lack thereof or extra offset impacts one's ability to aim. And it is significant. Where Dave and I sort of split is that he would have you believe that most people have a genetic predisposition to aim in a particular direction. I think people aim shitty because they putt shitty. If you miss enough putts to the right, you're going to start aiming to the left. You're talking about your putter, which, you know, your Del Mar is aggressively trying to open, and lo and behold, you have, you know, a tendency to aim to the left. With a conventional putter, where I disagree with Dave is that I don't think that aiming directly where you think you're aiming is as essential as he says it does, because either way, you're going to be manipulating the putter to get back to whether it's square to your target or square to where you were aimed. Something's got to happen. So it's kind of irrelevant. And to the point where if you look at some of the best players on tour, particularly guys with answer style putters, they all aim to the right because they all work the opposite of you. They all work really hard to release the putter. So they aim out to the right and make sure that they give themselves a little bit of room to release the toe through impact. So aiming is fairly out the window. By the way, nobody worse than Tiger Woods. I mean, on you know, from 6-8 feet or something on a dead straight putt, he's at the right edge, if not outside it, to give him some room to swing the thing close. So sorry, that was long-winded answer. Yes, hosel does matter. With our technology, I don't think it does. I think that people ultimately start hitting putts more often where they're pointed and their eyes start to adjust. One of the beautiful things about our directed force putter, the big mallet one, even though it's center shafted, it's very onset. It's a couple inches onset. So the face is in front of the shaft. And what's cool about that is that you can see the entire shaft. Oh, I just looked at my reflection because you're getting the sun right in my eyes. You can see the entire shaft. So we have a million different options for lines. It's mostly preference. I use some of Dave's stuff to sort of help guide somebody. So if I have an egregious right aimer, I'm going to throw a bunch of lines on there. If I have an egregious left aimer, I'm going to try and talk them into a dot or no lines or something like that. What's interesting is that left aimers are usually a little bit more neurotic, and so they want something. They want some lines to rely on. But
read my mind.
And the reason for that is because it's much more difficult to aim left and open a putter head back up on line. So left aimers, and I'm not saying it's you, bro, but are typically crappier putters. And so they just get crazier and crazier and go deeper down the rabbit hole with the putters and the lines and all the stuff. And whereas a right aimer can get away with being a right aimer. So yeah, I mean, our putter is very different than other putters. And ultimately we just want to find you a line that gets you off on the right foot when you get it started. And then after that, it's fairly irrelevant. The putter is going to lead you to aiming well because it's going to go where you're pointed.
Awesome. What about from Art here? Art wants to know about putter types, mallets and blades, and what's the difference in a traditional sense, and then what's the difference between the Lab, mallet, and blade?
So in a traditional sense, you know, it's, you know, we covered a lot of that and what, you know, what each putter is trying to do. You know, I would say if you're going to squeeze a putter, if you're somebody that, you know, like one of the funniest putting shticks I ever heard was Tom Watson, who was talking about grip pressure. And he says, I just grip it as tight as I can because I know that under pressure, I'm going to be gripping it as tight as I can. So I might as well be well-versed to do that. So I think if you're somebody that knows you're going to squeeze the putter, it's fairly irrelevant, but you can more aptly get away with a face balanced putter, a mallet. You know, especially if you like the way that it sets up and you can align it well and all that kind of stuff. If you're somebody that's looking, you know, to feel some kind of flow, something like that, I think you're probably going to be better off with a toe hang putter. And, you know, it's interesting. I've lost credibility as the CEO. Before I was the CEO, I was just a customer, and I had much more credibility because I had no reason to be blowing the product up. But take this with a grain of, I'm the guy, so obviously I believe this, but all of those options are available to use with our putter. If you want to gate the putter and swing it open, you're going to feel the same amount of resistance in both directions that you're going to feel with a toe hang putter. If you're trying to hood the thing on the way back and then screw it open on the way through, even better than a face balance putter, you're going to feel equal amounts of resistance in both directions. And then most ideally, the putter leads you to a stroke that just allows the putter face to stay square to its own arc. That's what it wants to do.
Awesome. And that actually leads me into the next question, was going to be talking about the arc versus straight. So it sounds like whatever your preference was before, when the putter is balanced, you're just going to be a better putter. You're not going to be fighting these rotational forces, whether you have a straight back, straight through, or you have an arc, right? The putter just stays square, and it doesn't matter where you hit it on the face. It's
Right.
still going to have that same moment of inertia, I love it. I think there was one more here. Talking about the importance of soling a putter, and I think you were touching on this with lie angle, just making sure it's not toe up, toe down. But what about lie angles? And you touched on that a little bit in the fitting process, but how is that important just from a performance perspective?
Sure. I also realized I didn't complete the answer to the other question, so let me touch on that as far as
sure.
the difference between a blade and a mallet in our putter.
Cool.
As far as the way that it swings, there is absolutely no difference. It is not the same narrative as picking up a Spider versus picking up a Newport. In ours, you're going to swing them and operate them and use them the same way. What you will start to see with our blade version, number one, we got a lot of people that just simply can't look at a center shafted blade because unlike the mallet, the shaft does interfere with the visual of the top line. Secondly, you're going to start to notice a loss of speed on some of the off-center hits with our blade. So those are the only two differences. I like having both of them because I am a crazy putter person, and it's nice to be able to switch it up without, as we talked about before, completely having to establish a completely new relationship with torque. They work the same way, they torque the same way, or don't torque the same way. So yeah, that's the difference between our two. I'm sorry, and this most recent question was about soling the putter. So
Yes.
Most putters have, like this one here, if you can see it, there's a little bit of curve on the bottom here. There's
Sure.
some camber. So if you're a little bit toe up or a little bit toe down in your posture, you're not necessarily going to notice because it's just so rounded here. Just like when you're hitting an 8-iron off an uphill lie or a downhill lie, the loft is going to have some impact, or the lie is going to have impact on the loft sending the ball where you think you're sending it. So if you're really toe up with a putter like this that's got 3 degrees of loft on it, chances are that ball's going left. I have a tour player right now who's using our putter, who had used a 2-ball putter for his entire career and was always toe up with it. And he got into our putter and we got it flushed out, and he keeps missing everything to the right. And it's because he aims to the right because he didn't realize it, but he was borrowing a little bit of room for the putter to hook back online. So fitting lie angle, our putter or any putter, I believe is absolutely essential. With our putter, it's even more essential because the thing is friggin' huge. I mean, this is a really, really, really big putter head. And in a playing position, when it's, a little bit toe up or something like that, you seriously are liable to scrape the heel on the ground, which is, very easy to get inspired to throw the thing into the lake after you take a divot out of a green. So yeah, we want to make sure that it's really flat. Bill also went really far out of his way to put very, very, very little camber on the bottom of the sole. There's very little curve. So what's cool is that, like I was talking about the fitting, you can start chasing, well, should I be toe up? Should I be toe down? When you get your putter, it is what it is. It cannot be adjusted. And that's going to be your one fixed point. No matter what, I have to build my posture around this putter being flush. And because it's so flat, when it's flush. So it sort of works as like kind of similar to like some of the Seymour technology where it forces at least one variable out of the equation so that your setup can be that much more consistent.
Sure. And I can't remember if you had mentioned the loft on your guys' putter.
Yes. So it's, yeah, it's a little tricky. So sole plate to face is only 2 degrees. The way that we get these things to balance is about where we stick the shaft. And because it's so far behind the head, what Bill did was he leaned the shaft forward so that now the top of the shaft is right over the top line of the putter like it would be on any other putter. So the shaft is leaned forward about 1.5 degrees, and the face is got 2 degrees of loft on it. So if you were to put it into a Mitchell, that would effectively tell you that there's 3.5 degrees of loft on it, which is deceiving. So face to shaft, there's 3.5 degrees. Face to sole, there's 2 degrees. But then we throw this bit of fuckery into the mix here with this press grip. So I think you guys are you able to see how it's
absolutely
on the crooked? Yeah. So we've got the shaft leaning forward. And so in order to not feel awkward having, some lean built into your shaft, what Bill did was then leaned the grip backwards. So now your grip has 3 degrees of tilt in it. The shaft has 1 degree of forward tilt in it. And the face has 2 degrees. So what this all adds up to is that if you're standing over your putt and the grip is completely vertical to the ground, you have 0.5 degrees of loft at address, which we have found to be totally ideal. Bill messed around with a bunch of other, lofts. We tried going, with some of the other industry standards. I think between the press grip, the size of the head, the fact that it's onset, all that stuff adds up to making this the most optimal amount of loft. We didn't find that to be the case on our blade. Our blade has 3 degrees of loft on the face. And then you can add a 1.5 degree press grip to that or not. But with the mallet, yeah, this very low loft situation really helped. And it also serves again as kind of another checkpoint. We want to be hitting up on the ball or at worst level. And if you're hitting down on it, you're going to know right away. It's the only way to make the putter feel crappy. Like if when I get a customer who calls up and says, God, the thing just doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel sweet. 99.9% of the time they got the ball too far back in their stance and they're hitting down on it.
Beautiful. I think that does it for all the questions, unless anybody last second has one that they want to throw in. So obviously we appreciate you coming in and sharing all this information. I know it's got me fired up to want to get one in my bag and get on the putting green. And I mean, who doesn't like making more putts? If somebody wants to get in touch with you, if somebody wants to get in touch with Lab and order one, go through a fitting, that whole process, what does it look like? How do they get in touch with you?
So we just launched a website about 2 months ago, and it's awesome. It's interactive, it's fun, and we're constantly updating it. The custom builder is going to be more comprehensive and more fun to use, and it's still already pretty exciting. So it's labgolf.com, LABGOLF.com. The first thing I would do, if you want to see one before pulling the trigger on it, if you check under the fittings tab, there's a fitting locator that has a big map. Type in your zip code and it's going to tell you all the different people that carry them near you. In general, our fitters and our retailers don't carry a bunch of stock because they're all custom fit putters. Sure. So it depends upon the retailer that's near you, but they should at least have one so you can kind of hear it and feel it and see what it's like. And then all of them have a fitting system and can order the putters that way. If you're so jacked by it that you're ready to pull the trigger and give it a shot, under that same fittings tab is an option for a remote fitting. Like we touched on earlier, it's extremely accurate. It really does work. I have had absolutely no problems whatsoever with somebody getting a putter after a remote fitting and saying that it doesn't feel right. It is really spot on. Do the remote fitting. We typically turn them around in about 24 to 48 hours. And then if you've already placed the order, we just complete the order with your spec on it. If you haven't placed the order, then we send you your specs and then you go in and order at your leisure.
Awesome. We do have one question just came in. I'm curious about this one. It's from Mark. I might butcher his last name, M-Y-H-R-E. Sounds like he might know you. He wants me to ask you about Yeah, he wants me to ask you about the GC Civil War.
There's a Facebook page group the Golfers Clubhouse, which is just the most debaucherous shit show of golf shit talking in all of Facebook land. I am a proud member of the North team. We won the last Civil War a couple hundred years ago. I feel confident we're going to take home the victory on this one as well. But yeah, I think we're all meeting in North Carolina in August, something like that. I think there's like 40 guys to a team or something like that. And I'm pretty sure Mark's on my team, so he's a good person. And John Wesley Bryan is a terrible human being and nobody likes him.
Oh, I love it. Awesome. Well, Sam, I can't thank you enough for being here. Everybody go out, get one of these putters. It's going to blow your mind. If you're serious about dropping strokes and just learn how to putt better, this is the place to do it. Awesome. Sam, I really
Thanks
appreciate
so much
it.
for having me on the show, man. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yep.